Yo, what's poppin'? It's episode 96 of CUZZO-OP. My name is Isaiah Velez, aka IV. I am one of the hosts that you will find here at CUZZO-OP, and I am joined, as always, by my brother, my cousin, my co-host,
Era, also known as Willie.
That boy breathed in to say his name. You already know it. It's been some time. Hope all of y'all are doing well. As always, we thank you for tuning in. It's just about that time. It's about that time. We gave y'all air. We gave you some time to breathe. We gave you, if you went in one of the 11, or maybe it's like 12, maybe it's even like 15 IMAX theaters with the film in the country, which I happen to be at one of those, by the way, but we're going to talk about it. We gave you time to see it. We gave you time to re-see it. We gave the internet time to react. We gave the haters time to talk. We gave the hype beast time to go off. And now it's time we give you our leveled, very steeped opinion on Ryan Coogler's latest film, Sinners. So we welcome you to the conversation. Usually the way we go through movies here at CUZZO-OP is we've got some pillars that we like to touch on. First and foremost, we want to tell you a little bit about our experience. So if this is your first time listening to a movie analysis from us, or some breakdown conversation about a movie or TV show or video game from us, we're going to start with that. Second is we're going to jump right into the sound of that film. We're going to talk a little bit about the sound. We got lots to talk about today. Then on top of that, after that, we got some cinematography. We're going to talk about the way the camera moved, the way things was looking. Shout outs to the photography. We're going to talk about that. Then we'll talk about these themes. We'll talk about the writing. We'll talk about the script. And then we'll take it to the actors, and we'll talk about the performance of these actors, which will probably come up as we touch each of the other pillars. But we just want to make sure we give everybody their just due if they need that, their due diligence. You'll find me. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through those 5 pillars, and I'm excited about it. Willie, I will give you the honor of explaining, sharing your initial viewing of Sinners. What was your expectations teeing up? Tell us the story, my brother.
All right. So, I mean, obviously, I've seen the trailers for Sinners before. Just being an AMC A-lister, you go out and you see the trailers multiple times, you see that joint over and over and over again. And so I was like, okay, it looks cool. Ryan Coogler, that's interesting. It's something new. But in the weeks leading up, I was like, oh, you know what? I am going to have to go see this. And so I saw it technically opening day. Technically, because, they dropped the movie the night before. And so I saw it opening day in the biggest screen we have here in the country, located right in Manhattan, NYC, Lincoln Square,
gang,
70 millimeter.
Gang.
And I saw it at like 10 a.m. And so I went, watched it, back row, sat there, and I just watched the movie. And then I said, I gotta let that simmer. I gotta let it sit. And so I had to take some time. And then I saw it again earlier today as of our recording. So we're recording May 1st.
Yeah.
And so my thoughts on the movie feel pretty good now. I feel good about them. I feel like I found my place with my feelings and everything of the sort. So, yeah, I guess that's all you wanted, right?
Yeah, all
right.
That's good. That's a good little, if you want to give us, we do this thing where we text each other very brief opinions about the films, you know what I mean? When we see them, like right when we're leaving. I'm trying to remember what it is I said to you. I'm pretty sure I said something like, I know what you said. What did I say? You said that this was one of the highest quality films that you have ever seen. Yeah. And I stand by that. And what was your, just give a brief, I think something.
I sent you a GIF.
You did.
I sent you a GIF, and it was,
it was the Batman. It was the Batman.
It was the Batman interesting gift.
Yeah, that was what you did.
I'm pulling it up. Yeah, it was this joint right here. That's all I sent.
He kept it vague. I low-key felt like, shoot, we're about to argue on this.
And all you said was, what?
What? Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I said N-word what? Yes, that's exactly how it went. So I'm a little timid about how this is going to go, but let me tell you my experience. So I am grateful for the fact that I actually am only 15 minutes away from the Webb Chapel Dallas IMAX, which is one of those few 70 millimeter IMAX theaters. I got to see the film Thursday night, the first time it was aired. Right there, 70 millimeter. The way that Coogler has been on YouTube via IMAX, via Kodak, talking about how you need to see his film in this format. I saw it in that format to go for it. All right. And I might have been a little off the eddy if I'm honest. And I sat there and I said, yo, this is gonna, and I was excited. I went to the movie with a group of friends who are, you know, my boy George was there. Shout outs Johnny. Shout outs Tom. This is kind of like my church's cinephiles. We go out there, we be chilling. And I'm there and I'm like, I'm with a group of level-headed individuals. I'm not with a group of people who are going to gas this film. It's either going to be great or it's not. And we're going to keep it. That's how we're going to keep it. I came with a level-headed batch on purpose. So we watched the film. And yeah, as soon as I left, I sent that text out to Willie because just astonishing. So we're going to jump on in. Let's talk about this. All right. We're going to talk about the sound to get started.
I actually want to start something new.
Oh, do you?
CUZZO-OP, something new.
Really? Let's do it.
Yes, sir. For every new movie, I want a section, whether we want this to be at the start or at the end. I want a section specifically about, did the trailer ruin this movie?
It did not. The trailer did not ruin this movie.
I think it hurt this movie. I don't think it ruined this movie.
I don't think it hurt it at all.
I have lists of trailers that I think ruined the movie. I don't think it did, but I think a better trailer would have impacted my experience differently than the way the trailers for this one impacted my experience. But I think it's interesting how trailers can put your mind into something, and then because you saw the trailer, your expectations, or I guess kind of like preconceived ideas of what's going to happen, can change. And we're going to talk about that later. But I just want to briefly throw that in there, that I think it's going to be very cool to start for us to kind of throw in there our thoughts on what did the trailer do, especially because we hold trailers in like high regards here. So it didn't ruin it, but it hurt my experience slightly.
That's fair. That's fair for your experience. But in my opinion, the trailer was tied to a concept that exists over the entire aura of this film, which is meta, in my opinion. And only people who make meta, real world decisions about cinema are dudes who love cinema. That's how I feel. And so the trailer was circumventing the genre right from the beginning. And I don't even like horror. I remember I was going to the movie. My wife's like, why y'all watching that? It's called Sinners. It's got vampires. Like, that's dark, you know? And in my head, I'm like, they could be right, but I'm going to go see it. It's Coogler and MBJ. Like, what you thought this was. But at the end of the day, like, when I left, something I've been telling to everyone is that, like, they just hid themselves under this genre. I had no intention to fully devote everything strictly to a horror. You know, you watch the interviews with Coogler, he talks about this movie being a full meal. And he, you know, you go to the movies, you don't want to leave hungry. He wants you to leave satiated, you know? And I'm like, you did that, in my opinion.
I was hungry a little.
Tweaking. He's tweaking. We're going to argue though. Let's get it. So let's go into the sound.
Quick editor's note after this episode was finished recording. Some of the thoughts that I had that I wanted to kind of share ended up not really popping up throughout the episode in places where I thought I would remember to bring it up. And so to quickly just kind of explain why I had the thought here that it hurt my experience just a little bit, just to expand on that for a quick second. You know, there's many shots in the trailer that for some, they'll be able to ignore it or be excited for when it popped up. For me, a lot of the movie was actually, you know, some of the memorable teaser shots all are in the end of Act 3, in the daylight. You know, and Michael B. Jordan and Miles are standing out there in the light looking up. You know, I'm like, that's morning. Michael B. Jordan shooting his gun, pop, 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 pop. Like, that was the IMAX shot, you know? And I'm like, okay, so I know he make it to the end, you know what I'm saying? Haley as the vampire, I was like, you know, I was expecting her to be the vampire the whole time though. So, you know, it kind of created a little bit of a twist, or I was like, oh nah, she's just a regular girl that's now I know she's gonna get bit at some point, you know? And so that's why I kind of mean some things in there. I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, I wish I didn't see it, but I guess it's just the nature of being, I guess, what you would call the cinephile or movie head. You know, you're gonna see these things, and it's kind of unavoidable. You know, they gotta show the movie off. They gotta show the movie off. Some trailers do it better than others. Some trailers keep it hidden, and for me, it was just a shame to know that. You know, by the time the sun come up, I know who's still around. But then again, Miles was already in the daylight with scratches on his face at the beginning of the movie. So I don't know. I'm just saying, damn, this was a movie I wish I didn't know anything about before seeing. But yeah, we could go into the sound.
We'll talk about the sound, man. I think, Ludwig, bro. Let's talk about Ludwig Göransson, right? Like, Göransson. Like, yo, this man, last couple of films were what? I think he had
Oppenheimer, Wakanda Forever. I mean, Black Panthers, just both of them. And I feel like I'm missing something else.
We already know the. Can you hear the music? Can you feel that? Yo, this man knows how to score. He knows how to score.
Obviously, Mando,
I forgot about that. He knows how to score, right? And what I love about this film, and this is going to be something I'm going to come back to over and over again, because I love that we could touch each of these pillars and the argument lands on all of them. The thing that's special about this movie that is included in the sound is that everybody involved with this production had a buy-in in this production outside of it just being a check. There's a level of what they do and what they love, them being able to bring that into this environment. So Ludwig, you know, a perfect example of that is the astonishing middle scene. The scene that everyone wants to talk about, you know, this idea of playing music through the ages and having the blues transcend time and connect to culture in all of these different genres and mixing it all together with I Lied to You. That scene and that sound, a lot of people are like, that's the best part of the film. I just think it's one of the coolest parts of the film. I did not find that to be the best part of the film, in my opinion. But I also am like super saturated in music. Like I like listening to music. So it's like, that's a thing for me. I think a lot of musicians, like my boy George, who was with me, we looked at each other like, that was like a little off-putting, right? Like I wasn't expecting that low key. But then when I saw it the second time and I thought about it in the context and the way it stuck the landing, I was like, everything that's sound related in this film was intentionally put there on purpose. Even if it's designed to give you something that makes you off kilter, Ludwig thought about that. Coogler thought about that. So that's definitely what I'll start with when it comes to the sound. I'll let you get your thoughts off, but bro, I have so many thoughts about this film. It's literally my favorite movie of the year so far. So we could just go ahead and get it jumping. You go ahead and go off.
Yeah. Sound wise, score is phenomenal. I haven't been able to get it out of my head.
And I know you're a big score boy.
I haven't been able to get it out of my head, my Spotify playlist. And I know it's real. When I was at work earlier this week and my boss, whenever he's not handling his own stuff, his door is open. You can feel free to walk in whenever you want. So I go over to ask him a question, and what do I hear him bumping inside the office, bro? My 72-year-old boss? The Sinners score and soundtrack, bro. Mm. Because he watched that joint over the weekend and he said that joint was flames. Mm. And so that's how you know that joint is real. We talking about a pastor, you know, old head, and he was bumping the Sinner score. So that's how I knew. I was like, oh yeah, this joint is just legit. It's just legit.
It was fire.
You know, that scene with Sammy and I Lied to You, it's funny because when I'm watching that moment, the down with the electric guitar starts, I'm like, do I like this?
I don't know.
And then it kept going, and I was like, do I like this? And by the time it all kind of ended, I was like, nah, they cooked.
They did.
Visually speaking, it's a lean-in moment, because when you see the IMAX, for those who didn't watch an IMAX, this is one of the first scenes where the film, you see the change. And so, but when Sammy hit that, and then I was just like, all right, that was awesome. Yeah. That was awesome. But what is my favorite or one of my favorites, if we want to go that route, scene of the film is the opposite to the I Lied to You, and it's Rocky Road to Dublin.
Yeah, fire scene. That scene is hard.
And so musically, listening to the actor speak about what that song is awesome. But on my second watch earlier today, mind you, keep in mind, I've been listening to Rocky Road to Dublin nonstop.
That song is hard. That song is hard.
It's his theme for the entire movie. From the first time he shows up on strings, you're hearing the na 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 the Rocky Road to Dublin, but you know lyrics or anything. It's slowed down, but you hear it.
Score,
and
baby.
So I like that the moment he shows up to the moment he's gone, you're getting that is his character.
Yeah, he's
had
present
to be back home.
He's present in sound. Yeah.
This movie tells a story through sound and score. Even the small whispers in the forests. It's that cornbread. Oh, look at cornbread. They did their thing here.
They did.
So
another thing I enjoyed about sound too was scenes that had to do with I'm trying to remember everybody's name. We got Mary, who's played by
Haley.
Mary, played by Haley. What's her name? That's love interest of Smoke.
I believe her name was Anne or Annie.
Annie. Anything that has to do with the protection of the hoodoo. There's a we're gonna talk about cinematography in a second, but there's not only a cinematography difference when it comes to the mojo bag and its protection of the forces over him, like when he's talking to her and he's telling her and she's telling him, I've been praying for you and protecting you. You've gone all over these places and I kept you safe. There's this ringing that kind of accompanies that scene, and it's eerie, and it makes you feel like something otherworldly is involved. And I think, like, again, those are the things that make a big difference. There's passion behind the decisions to do that leave you immersed on multiple levels. I don't need to just say it with the characters acting or say it with the camera shot. I can also say it with the way that the music relays that point. And this is what brings us back to the full meal, you know. Another thing I thought I loved about the I Lied to You scene is when I was watching interviews with Ludwig, he was saying there was a musician, somebody who wrote that song, who, when he wanted to work with him, he's never worked with him before on a project. So when he heard the script from Coogler, he said, all right, I'm going to hit this dude up and recruit him. When he hit him up and they started talking one night about the movie, they started working on songs and playing with music. And it turns out that I Lied to You was something that had been written by that musician way before the opportunity to write for this movie had presented itself. He had written it for his own father. And so it's moments like that, these things that are special to these creatives, that it's like from a cinematography standpoint, from an acting standpoint, from a sound standpoint, from a directing standpoint, it feels like the significant buy-in from all of these people is kind of what comes together to make such what I think is a special film. That's the best creative stuff, in my opinion, when everybody's bought in beyond it just being, let's make a blockbuster. Like, let's make something that has passion in it. Let's make something that means something. And the sound is not outside of that. Ludwig knows how to do that very well. So yeah, big hats off to Ludwig. He continues to accompany directors very well. And especially his boy from college, Coogler. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
He's dangerous. He might have just secured an Oscar again.
Yeah. I think so.
In Danger, bro. Wicked in Danger.
He's cooking. Sound is excellent. Definitely love that. We could talk about the blues all day, but we'll get to that more in the themes. Let's also talk a little bit about cinematography, right? Let's talk about shots. As you see, if you're on YouTube right now, I've got this iconic opening scene when you first meet Smoke and Stack. And it's when we get to see the two twin versions of MBJ playing these characters. And the shot is insane because the cinematographer, the director of photography, designed this shot on purpose with the sky being airy behind Stack and the solid dark background behind Smoke, the colors that are played with throughout the movie, the blue, the red, the whites. There's a lot of elements that the sound, the shots, and then the colors utilized tell on top of everything else that's significant. One of my favorite scenes when it comes to cinematography in the whole film is the car rides, the two car rides, the one where they're going to go, to the train station when it's just, no, not even a train station, when they're going to pick up the truck and, Sammy's in the back and you see him with the cut of the two brothers between him, but he's in the back seat. Like, for me, as soon as I saw that scene, as somebody who loves film, what is that scene saying to me without what it's saying? Well, it's he's behind two people who leave an impression upon them. he's caught between the two people who are in front of him. He's trying to figure out who he is between these two kind of sides of the spectrum. And that's what this movie has. A lot of shots like that where you get an understanding of what Coogler's trying to get off by the way that it's framed. And I think that that's so special. People forget. And a lot of people love to say, oh, you're looking for something that's not there. You want some Kendrick Super Bowl. It's not even no, people really sit and think about this for real, bro. This is what storyboarding is all about. And I really give a big props to Coogler because he went crazy on that. Again, bro, that's like the seasoning on top of the dish. It's truly a full meal in my opinion. But what about you, bro? Talk to me about cinematography. What's some stuff that stood out for you?
Good shit. It's good shit. I've seen people say that right behind you, that image is look who's outside. The background is the outside, and look whose background is the building. What that means to the movie. Just the camera work. One scene in particular is when they go for the first time and they meet Bo Chow, and he sends little Lisa to go to get his wife, and so she has to cross the street, and it follows her across the street, and you see the dynamics of the time period, obviously being, one side of the street is relegated to African Americans and the other side is delegated to the white folk, and you see that change with the one shot, and it goes in the store, and as she comes back out and walks back across the street, sequences like that I really did enjoy. I enjoyed the playing around with the lighting,
and
the eyes.
That was fire. You heard he got inspired for that from Puss in Boots.
Yes,
the latest Puss in Boots was where he got his idea about the wolf eyes. He wanted to have that for the vampires feel.
And it's great. I think I'll explain it to you more later when it comes to the full meal, still hungry idea. But the moments where I was really eating, I felt like, was all the moments where they were playing into the eeriness. And so when a white KKK lady is going back into her house and she has to kind of walk down this hallway to go find her husband after they let Remick in, it's very dark. And I'm like, oh, this is very eerie. And I like how it also kind of, at least unless it's just me bugging out, but even the non-eerie things were eerie. Like when Sammy first goes to the church at the start of the movie and you see his pops. And his pops, I'm kind of like, well, they really casting like this shadow over him to kind of, both Sammy and him, to kind of make you feel like, oh, am I supposed to feel settled in right now? Because I really don't,
Right.
I think the shot selection was good. The colors that they chose to use in the film were good. I don't have any complaints here either, other than maybe some of the story sequences later that probably could have used a little bit more visual clarity in regards to maybe who was in the barn during certain sequences and not framing it to make us believe that there are certain numbers or more people or less people like that.
I saw that, yeah. On the second go, I saw that, yeah.
We could talk about that as well, but IMAX is also beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I think it's the only film this year specifically made to see in this format.
Absolute. And that's part of the thing, man. I feel like the film, man, when it comes to the cinematography, if you saw it in film, then the punch and the grit of some of these scenes when it expands to that full IMAX and you watching the film, bro, it feels, again, otherworldly. It really does keep you immersed in this environment. And then when I went and saw it in digital after the fact, I could distinguish the difference between both experiences. I wish everybody could experience the 70 millimeter film version. There's a reason why they're saying to go see it like that. There's a reason why they've extended its viewership to 10 of the different theaters in IMAX. There's a reason why Tom Cruise said you should go watch this movie. There's a reason. And I just think at the end of the day, they didn't slack off when it came to cinematography. I thought that was really beautiful. But let's talk a little bit more about the script. Let's move on to script now. So we've got a script that is filled with reverence for history. And one of the things that I like to say about this film is that if it's a full meal to me, right? Like using Coogler's words, what makes it a full meal is the fact that it's got some thriller elements. It's got some horror elements. It's got period piece energy. Sometimes it's got gangster film vibes. And I think that what I like about the script is that the script stands in all of those different genres or kind of shapes in which it moves and grooves. That I think is interesting. You know, again, this meta dynamic of, you know, a person dies and a vampire is their soul being stuck in the state. I feel like there's a script that sticks and stays throughout whatever you get from this movie. And I think that's special. It takes skill to write a movie like that. And Coogler has developed that skill from Fruitvale onward, you know, and I think, you know, we don't have to talk about Wakanda forever, but at the end of the day, like, he knows how to write a great script about heroes and villains. He knows how to write a great script about becoming. He knows how to write a great script about not having a lazy character on the screen, but instead letting every character on the screen have some sort of buy-in in that process. I find myself liking all of the characters because they each have standout scenes and lines. And I think that that's cool. When you go on Twitter and you look at the scenes that people are posting, you get scenes from Cornbread, from Mary, from Annie, from Stack, from Smoke. You're not just seeing one character shine. You're seeing all of them have these points that were like, dang, that left an impression on me. That's good writing, bro. Yeah. That's good writing.
Script-wise, I think the twins are very distinguishable because I think they are written to be similar and different in certain areas. The big one for me is Stack is reckless. Yeah. He is quick to speak and reckless, where Smoke is more concise, particular, methodical. Like you might say him shooting people in the street is very, you know, not thinking, but no, he was very methodical with what he was doing. And then you compare it to Stack. He's trying to hire somebody to work on his, you know, place. And he's like, your wife will let you put your peck in her mouth and fuck your wife too. You know, I'm gonna beat the black. No, you're not. Cause you know, but it's just so funny that in the script, you can tell that they are two different people, and movies that do this sometimes struggle.
Fact.
Like I love The Parent Trap, but you can tell that those girls are written to be different for being different sakes.
Yes.
Versus here, it's like, ooh, two different actors. I believe it. They're not just being written differently just because, they're twins, but they're polar opposites. Because these boys, they're not.
Right.
But it's smart. It's smart because you could tell they both stem from the same branch, but just a little differently in a good way that makes you tell them apart, which is why it's never once I'm like, who is that? Which twin is that? So yeah, script wise, they had some crazy ass quotes in this movie. People were saying some wild things. Mary was saying some wild things too, but I want to talk about that when we get to the acting department.
She was tweaking. And I think at the end of the day, like, what's cool about the film's writing as well is you get a general sense, because of how well the lines are written, you understand more about the character through every line. Every single line reveals more about who this character is, from shrieks of terror over a moment to the way they respond in a point of crisis to them monologuing. Like, you just get this understanding. Right. You know, you don't have to wait for a monologue just to understand a character more. One of my favorite scenes is the argument between Sammy and Smoke upstairs in the juke joint. Like, I love this clash of, nah, bro, you're going to bury your dreams because your dreams are foolish and they're not methodical. And Sammy being like, nah, like, you set me free. You're not going to stop this. And that being the exact thing that triggers Smoke, because he feels so responsible for his brother and for, you know, helping Sammy try to navigate that, but only by the rules he thinks that works. Another scene I love, a lot of, Smoke is a really well-written character. Stack is great too, but Smoke's writing is excellent.
Smoke is by far.
That scene where he's like, just power, woo, and money, woo, that scene is stupid. I also really love the fact that Coogler dared to put, and I imagine he had a mind board somewhere, bro, for this, because he has segments of writing that are mirrored in both characters, right? So like, the scene when Smoke sees Annie and she goes, you gonna make me say it? And he tells her that he loves her. A couple of, now we're in the juke joint. Stack is like, you gonna make me say it? I love you. And you were gonna have a life. The two of them have these pockets where they have similar kind of stanzas of language, yet it's still very distinct. That's just, again, like, brilliant. Just brilliant.
Right.
So
I want your opinion on something. I want to know what section you think this would go in. moments in the film where I felt like it might be script or what they're putting on the screen visually. They would call back to something that was said earlier, and it felt like every time they could cut back and literally show it or put it in audibly, they would. And I don't know how I feel about that, because it happened every time. Like when he was talking about me and my baby, and then it shows him putting the flowers on the grave, or even to the point where Sammy's playing in the juke joint. And I liked this one more than any of the rest. They have to play Annie at the beginning again, can transcend through past and future. So it sets that scene up well. But there are other moments where I'm like, Remick, he's like, these two are clan members. And then it shows you the KKK outfit that he saw earlier as he's saying it again. And it's like, did you need to show me that again?
Yes.
It just, for me, felt like every time they could, they did. And I don't necessarily love it. It doesn't fully hinder the experience, but after a certain point, after it happening so many times, I'm like, are we being trusted to remember these things if you have to show it to us every time? Not a huge problem. Literally, I want to say like a 0.5 of a problem, you know, not even a full issue. I'm just like, is it we're not trusted as an audience kind of thing, or just to make us feel better, we're in there so that there's zero confusion? I can respect it. But what do you think about that?
0.5, that is a 0.5 of a problem, listeners, for Arrow. That issue is a 0.5. Not that big, though.
Not for my grading, like not for my rating or anything.
The idea, okay.
Just the idea of a problem, it's like a 0.5. Like, it doesn't do any harm for me. It just makes me question, do you trust your audience, or is it not about that? Is it more just for clarity? Like,
I noticed it from the first view, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I watch movies. Like, I'm a cinephile. So it's like, and I like story. So for me, like, I knew what was being referred to without seeing that, but most people do not. So I think that the fact that it was there is about accessibility of the story. Right. But I also think there's homage in that, because that is a signature Nolan move. Nolan does that all the time. As much as, and sometimes he does it, and then to make it so that he trusts us, it's confusing. It's not even clarifying. It's just confusing. He cuts back. Denis does something similar as well, because he's big on edits and time. So I think the time edits in this film, especially when you hear from interviews that Coogler calls Nolan up for life advice and calls him up for IMAX advice. And I think like that also, I got a little bit of homage to that and that stylization decision. Guy Ritchie also does that. That's a big thing from Guy Ritchie. I like editing. I like when editing is brilliant and feels effortless like that. It feels like floating. It doesn't feel like it stumbles the film, and it takes skill to be able to do that. So for me, I like that existed for all of those reasons. I felt like it helped me to stay immersed even more. Like, it nailed the nail in the coffin, hammered the nail in the coffin even more on some of these points.
Okay.
Including the KKK, the clan reference. I thought that was like, right. Oh snap. And then when you watch it, and then because you do that, when you watch it a second time, it's even more emphasized because you caught it, because he made sure you caught it in your first time. I think that also helps. So you don't have to do as much puzzle working, but yeah. Let's move on to themes, bro, because there's a lot of different themes in this film. We're about halfway, a half hour into this, but, listen, bro, the part of the reason why I love this movie so much is because, and this is where I think that it's a full meal. I think that when you can create a world and the world is built on pillars of themes that are not only endless in terms of interpretation, but on top of that are timeless, and they can be applicable, not just now in the present or reflective on the past, but also kind of dictate where we might head in the future. I think that like what we call that in the battle rap culture and the rap culture, bro, is we call that a classic. We call it a classic. And this movie is an instant classic because of the level of depth that is existent in the film. So this is for all of the shallow moviegoers that are settled with a Fast Five and they like to just see shit blow up. If that's your vibe, this movie has some of that for you, which is what's cool. But this movie has a plethora of themes and things it wants to introduce to you, feelings that it wants to describe to you, that I think that if you don't think that it's there, or you act like Coogler wasn't intentional about that, then you're full of shit. I'll just be absolutely honest with you. And that's what really goes a long way for me on this movie. So I thought I had to preface with that, but I'll let you jump in on some themes. What are some themes, some concepts, some ideas that you enjoyed? Let's have some dialogue about these.
All right. My favorite theme, and I was talking about this last night with people. Everybody in this movie going to hell, number one. The fact Sinners, the advertisements for this movie were character name blank is a sinner. So like Bo is a sinner, Grace is a sinner, Mary is a sinner. Was the idea that, in terms of religious talk, I will never pretend to be the most knowledgeable or even the one who cares about it enough to have a full conversation about it with people that aren't going to sit and listen,
Mm-hmm.
The idea that you let it in. You let the sin into your life or the bad things that happen. You may be the one letting it in. And sometimes it's the hate or the dislike that you have for other things or people that leave that room in. So these two KKK couple let the sin, the evil, the literal devil of this movie into their home because of the prejudice that they have against the natives. Right? That's kind of crazy that your hate that you have for an entire group of people let the devil into your home. And so when I'm watching this movie, I know vampire lore. There are people in life that don't know vampire lore. I like vampires. So for the first time we hear the words, let me on in there. Mary says that. I'm already knowledgeable of vampire lore. I'm like, vampires need to be let in because they're dead.
Right.
And so they put it throughout the movie before they even acknowledge that idea. For those who know, it's like a nod. I see. So then when it finally comes around, it's like, you gonna let us in? It's like, no, don't let him in. Don't let the devil in. But it's crazy how that idea of you need to let him in for him to do the work that he wants to do on you. You have that power. And I loved that in this movie.
Absolutely, bro. That's a great theme. I love that theme.
And like I said, they all going to hell, bro. All of them. Not one of them is not going to hell. Smoke's in hell, bro.
That's up for debate. I think, what I love about this movie is that its themes are not individualized either. That's what's cool. Like if you're going to take like a canvas and paint a picture on it, right? It's almost like one part of the canvas is not specifically designed for one specific theme. Like that part of the canvas can apply to numerous themes at the same time, right? I think my biggest thing that I want to address, because you talked about the concept of religion a little bit, I want to talk about that. I think that theme is insane. My boy hit me up the other day. It was yesterday. My boy Alex, shout out Alex. And he said, yo, one of my friends went to go see Sinners last night. And he asked me this: do you think Sammy's decision at the end to keep the guitar was him choosing music over God? And I said, before I answer, what do you think? He goes, he and I had differing opinions on the film, especially with its message about Christianity. These are two Christians talking about this. So I want to know what you thought. Personally, I think Sammy chose to pursue passion for music over his father's expectations, and his rejection of God was just a byproduct of that decision. That's what he told him. This is how I responded, and then I'll let you know where I'm at. It kind of says it. I said, I think I agree with you, but I would push even further into the nuance of the faith journey. I think, as many of us do, Sammy's faith revealed itself when he was reciting the prayer in the most perilous moment, in the moment of right before death, when he needs God most. That's what we all do, right? Anybody who follows God, Lord, I'm drunk as fuck, but if you make this go away, I'm in some real trouble. But if you, it's more times when we're in a down space, in a valley, that we will reach up, right? And that's what's happening for Sammy. So boom, it's relatable on a human level already from that scene. I said, right when he had selfishly journeyed too far from what was biblically and spiritually taught to him, right? But I think that scene revealed his faith as his own, and is emphasized even further in the mid-credit scene when he chooses to continue living towards death instead of accepting the enticing offer to choose music and keep playing it forever. So I said, as far as music and choosing it over God, I'd say no. I think he needed to journey toward his dream and wasn't willing to kill the dream despite that traumatic evening and despite his parents' expectations. There had to be more. And I think that he carried God with him and probably found even more of God on his journey. So what I love about this film the most, bro, is that I think that, there's a lot of Christian folk that are coming out that a lot of their money in their pockets are filled by perpetuating a surface level of faith in the faith journey. I won't name celebrities because I'm not that type of guy. But if you follow me on Instagram, I have named some people. I've reposted some things and I put some comments out, but I won't put it on wax right now because I think that that's hateful. What I will say is this, though. Hey, man, this movie wants to talk about organized religion, and it wants to talk about a pseudo freedom that organized religion offers, especially to the black people who were in plight. If you think about this, that White House that was supposed to perpetuate hope is part of the systematic issue, as these slaves, not slaves, but near slaves, were giving money that wasn't actually real in offering to this house and perpetuating a system that Smoke and Stack are constantly trying to break out of and come against, specifically Smoke. And I think that that point is important because then it mirrors what the vampires can offer, which is another version of enticing freedom that is being offered. But both camps are offering life after death, but they come with death to self in ways that feel compromising. And I think that the film carries that so well throughout the whole movie by giving you these bipolar ideas like the two guys on my left and right. So it gets you as a thinker, if you're willing to widen your spectrum of understanding of this concept. And then it uses sound, script, acting to get that point nailed in from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end. This is why I think this is a masterful film. This is why I think that this is a high level, high quality film. And so for me, I just think like at the end of the day, they do that in so many ways, bro. When it comes to that last scene with him and deciding not to choose to let go of the guitar, I think that him not choosing the guitar is just as important as him not choosing to be bitten by Stack at the end of the film. I think he as an individual both can say that night was the worst night of my life and also the best night. And Stack can say, me too, bro. We were free. And that joint is just like, it just rings. It gives you that Nolan top spin at the end of Inception, in your soul. And it's just, it gives you that arrival, alien pod concept of going in circular. You get this big idea and you feel it inside yourself. That's excellent writing, bro. That's just my opinion. I think that he killed that shit, bro.
So down with organized religions, right?
I think organized religion is perpetuated for more negatives than positives sometimes. And as much as some people might need that on a surface level, the older you get and the more mature you become in your faith journey, regardless of what religion you may follow, you start to recognize that this has a lot more to do with the intimacy you have with the being you follow and way less about what people say you should or shouldn't do. And I think it speaks on that concept. So yeah, they're all sinners. We're all sinners, right? But at the same time, you trying to tell me I'm more of a sinner than I am is a funny joke because who are you to say that I am? Yes. We're both human. And that is what the movie's trying to talk about.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. I love that. To kind of give an answer to what your friend asked you, I don't think he turned away from his religion at the end because he turned away from his father and his father's beliefs about what his son's religion should be. And people are going to do that.
Yep.
You know, I didn't want to follow any particular religion just because my family did.
Sure.
I wanted it to work for me. And so him turning away from his father and holding on to the guitar, like you said, is him exploring his own freedom and his own right to choose what he does with his life.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to let Stack, Smoke, or his pops say anything about that. Yeah. Despite everything that he just witnessed, that his literal guitar and his freedom brought to everyone that night, he still went with it.
Yeah.
So I think that was dope. Another theme, obviously, this movie is full of racial tension.
Let's talk race.
Tones, all of that. What I saw online was actually, I thought it was pretty funny, and I've had the pleasure of explaining it to some coworkers of mine as well that aren't particularly knowledgeable about some of these subjects. This movie is an exploration about being careful who gets invited to the cookout. And I thought that was funny because there are some characters in this film that you can see like, I get it. They got invited until it wasn't working for them anymore. Then they wanted to act like, this ain't really our business. And I believe, I don't remember his name. Good thing I have Letterboxd on standby. Shout out to Letterboxd. We love Letterboxd. My boy in the movie, Old Head. Shit.
You talking about Delta Slim?
Yeah, Delta Slim.
Mm-hmm.
He says it in the movie at one point. They like what we do for them. They just don't like that we're the ones to do it. This movie has a lot of that. I'm going to let you go first.
That last point, wait. What was that last line you said? I just want to make sure that I go on the right, because I could go, come on.
Delta Slim makes the claim because Sammy's like, they don't like the blues. And Delta Slim says, they like the blues. They just don't like that we're the ones giving it to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that speaks to the culture nowadays as well. I'll just point out a lot of, I'm going to say suburban areas, predominantly white areas. They like the rap music. They like all that. Yeah. They don't like who's making it, right? They'll listen. They'll bump it.
They will.
They'll live it. Live it. Live it.
They will. They will. And I think that, the Jordan Peels, the Ryan Cooglers, the people who are going to be obnoxious about the Donald Glovers, the people who are Black men who are going to be obnoxious about the discomfort that comes with that racial concept that we've lived in systemically, but also deal with on a day-to-day when it comes to the idea of privilege, when it comes to the idea of taking and exploiting Black creativity, Black talent, Black ideas, Black inventions, and it being something that's happened since the beginning of time. If you really think about it, bro, it's been like this forever. But this is the other thing. It's not just for Black people, though. Like, that's the one thing that I love about this film that they did intentional about. My brother on the call right now has got some hey, listen, when it comes to Remick, they say that Remick is, that the Irish are almost like the Black whites in terms of the way that their race was also systemically destroyed and crippled. He even makes comment about it when he and the vampires recite the Lord's Prayer at the end of the movie. Race is something they talk about across so when Remick is, he basically might as well have said, we don't see color here. Like, he was like, hey, that's not the vibe.
So
we
funny,
don't,
bro.
And it has two sides to it, because I think he actually genuinely meant that. But the ignorance in him saying it is part of what also speaks to this dynamic, and that is what I think is beautiful horror, in my opinion. Like, if you want to talk about having half a plate of horror, what's disgusting about the concept of this is that it's real. All right. It doesn't have to be vampires. There's scenes in this movie that are like that when it comes to race, bro, where you're just like, this is eerie. One of the eeriest scenes, which is also one of the most beautifully shot one takes, in my opinion, is let's talk about the Chinese. Let's talk about the Chinese representation of Chinese people and how they were one of the only races in that point in time in the 30s that could cross over to both the white side and the Black side of a town like where we were in Mississippi. That scene when Bo goes and tells his daughter to go in to get Grace, and she walks from the Black side of the street over to the white side of the street. And it shows this young person who doesn't even recognize the weight of the segregation they're able to cross to create commerce across both sides. I think that concept was eerie. It wasn't like, this is a beautiful scene. It's like, this is disgusting. Like, this existed and still has that systematic dynamic still exists. Whether we're looking at the music or we're looking at, the way dudes will look at you depending on where you live to this day. I got a homie that lives in a town where he got called the N-word the other night. This is our lives. This exists. So the movie wants to express that feeling, and it doesn't do it strictly through words. It does it through making the feeling come to life in the sounds, come to life in the shots, come to life through and so I just think like that's awesome. And then you want to talk about the meta, the fact that Coogler signed this deal, the fact that Coogler gets the rights to this film back in 25 years. You know about that?
Yeah, I do.
that's just right. That's just correct. That's just redemptive. I don't even know what else to say. Like, it's just redemptive in its nature. Listen, bro, you can say I'm biased all I want, but all of the facts of why this film is a massively amazing film in a point in time. I was talking to somebody who is white, who just wrote an analysis paper on this movie for her college course. And we agreed. We said, 30, 40 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to say this was one of them ones. This is a classic. This is a classic film. And it's because of the power in which it expresses these very real points, man. Race is definitely discussed and shed light on a lot of times, man. Yeah. I love how Coogler got that off.
Even in the beginning of the movie where he's hitting him with the Klan don't exist no more. Even now, we're watching this movie like, okay, buddy. But then he's asking all the questions. Oh, you wash his floors? Why you wash it? What was on him? He just spits on the floor. You're like, oh, you are disrespectful as hell. You are probably a part of the Klan. Yeah, he was the head damn leader, bro.
Yeah.
Because we're not ignorant. Some people are now, but we're not. And we recognize that shit still exists today.
Yes.
So what the fuck are we talking about, bro?
And what I love, one of my favorite scenes is actually that scene where you said you didn't really mind the callback to the shot sometimes, but like, I think the callback to the Klan and these two, Joan and her husband being Klan members, the first two people that Remick bites, like, that's important. It's an important thematic idea in the lack of freedom that these guys think that they have because of the time period. That's important for you to understand as a viewer. Whether the night went well or it didn't, there was still going to be Klan that came to shoot them all down in the morning, no matter what. Because whether this fantastic, beautiful idea, Sammy playing music that transcends time, happened or not, the next morning they were still going to get shot at. And that is a point for you to sit and ponder on. You need to sit and ponder on that concept, because there are people who live with that fear every single day. And it was politically correct for them to have that fear. That's insane. So we hope you felt afraid. We hope that gives you horror, because that is horrifying to exist in. Come on, Coogler. Snap. Right. You couldn't do that with Black Panther or Wakanda Forever. That wasn't a possibility. Marvel needs it to be clean. It's Disney. But when he got his lick off, he really got his bite off, bro. He went crazy. This film is crazy, bro. It's a crazy film.
The cookout point, you got Mary in the juke joint.
Yeah.
She's the first one to suggest, let me go out there and talk to the white people and see what they're about. Maybe they can help you. So she trying to help out. She gets got.
Yeah.
Grace and Bo up in the joint. All right, go get the car. He goes because it's time to leave. We agreed to help them get this place set up. We ain't agreed to do all this. So you was bumping the music. You had your ancestors busting it down on the floor 2 minutes ago. But now that things is getting a little tough, you want to dip out because this ain't your problem? Got it. So we're only good for you when it's okay. And then Grace is the one to fold the evening by letting them in.
Facts.
Be careful who you invite. Yeah. Because they ain't got your best interest at heart. They only be thinking about them.
It's true.
I like that idea. I like that concept, because if you really do look at the night, both of the biggest fuck ups in the movie happen because of who was invited, the outsiders that are invited in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was great.
But I think that's the other side of the point you mentioned earlier when it comes to vampires and having to be let in and, all of us being sinners. I think at the end of the day, that's inevitable. Because if you live with a segregated mentality, a compartmentalized mentality where you just want to be in a cookout with only your people all the time, then does that really make you any different than the Klan that's filled with all white people? I don't think that it does. I'll be absolutely honest. I'll be one of those guys who says that. I think that we have to expand and keep our open mind and show love to people across all. That's what Martin Luther King was all about. Wasn't he all about that? Right? Like, it's this idea of all races. It's not that we don't see color. We recognize what color is, what plight is, what trauma is. But this movie could have been called Humans. It could have been called People if we really wanted it to be, because at the end of the day, that's the whole point. It's like, we're going to use these prisms and these ideas and these grids of race to paint a picture that proves that we are all broken. And this is all effed up. The whole thing is effed up. top to bottom, whole thing. So I think like I like a lot of people don't like Mary. A lot of people don't like Mary that I'm seeing online. What I'm seeing right now is a very split crowd as usual. And I saw a tweet. Shout outs Brian. I saw a tweet that somebody said, yo, what's mad funny is the people who have an issue with Sinners, especially on the racial points and certain things, a lot of them sided with Drake when it came down to the cultural war over summer of 2024. And I said, yo, it's because I told y'all it was a battle for the soul of the universe. A lot of the people who are like, yeah, Ryan Coogler really snapped on this film. You look back, they were talking about Team Kendrick. And I think that that's a commonality and a pattern that's important in today's society, bro, because what's happening here is there's depth in this film. And if you're willing to be a critical thinker, we live in a time where critical thinking is not existent. People just see what they see on the internet. They absorb that opinion and then that becomes their opinion. And then everybody flocks into such a polarizing side. Where are the middle voices? The voices that can see the red and the blue in a situation. The voices that can understand the pain of a black person, but also the systemic elevation of white people. So you look at a character like Mary, who what I loved was, again, we said there's buy-in in this film from a lot of the people involved. Haley actually has a grandfather on her mother's side that was black. Legit. She's actually, when she says that line in the movie as her character, she is using her own storyline in real life to get that off. And that point is polarizing to me. Because then you got people on the internet being like, she ain't black. And I'm like, okay, well, what makes her not black? She has black in her. She's just as black as my daughter is. My daughter fully Puerto Rican, but she got a little slither of black. So what's the vibes? At the end of the day, everybody has a lot to say because you can stand on one polarizing side, but there's so much more complexities to us as people. And I think Mary really got that off because she was trying to express that to Stack. Like, hey, it doesn't have to be so black and white. I'm white. I'm white showing and you're black. And now I can't be with you. Like there's so much more emotion involved in this, isn't there? Why are we neglecting that? You stuck your tongue in my cooch and F me with love. Isn't that louder than our color? Isn't that more important? Aren't we family? We're family. Oh, family. People get offended by that. I think that that's interesting. I think Coogler left all that on purpose because it also shows the horror in us as people.
Yeah, I agree with the completely polarizing opposite side things. I think there's a lot, and we've talked about it on so many episodes before about people now are on one side or the other, and it's kind of flipping to a way that I'm like, relax a little bit.
Chill.
You're doing too much. Like, it's okay. Like, let the movie tell its story.
Yeah.
Let the actors do what they gotta do. It's okay.
Fact.
You'll be okay. Oh,
Fact.
you feel like that's dramatic to you? Well, you're dramatic to me. Shut the hell up,
Just
please.
Shut up. Just be quiet.
All that to say, bro.
Yeah, there's so many themes we could go after, bro. I mean, there's no way we're gonna get them all. There's themes of water. The baptism is a big scene. There's themes
music
of blues. Yeah, we can't not do this without blues. Though.
I want to do music.
Okay,
I want to
go
talk
ahead.
music.
Go ahead.
Bro.
Talk me.
Music to me is like a top 5 thing of all time. Water and music occupy 2 of those spots.
Facts. That's.
So I'm always drinking water, bro, and music.
Yeah.
And so when I tell you that my favorite scene in the movie is Rocky Road to Dublin, I mean that shit, bro.
Facts.
Because not only is it very awesome to just listen to and experience, but in the movie, the character, what that moment is meaning to Remick himself is crazy. That he's trying to recreate what he witnessed Sammy do, but he just lacks the soul that Sammy has. Is phenomenal. But I want to talk about that scene for a few reasons, because I think that scene is the highlight of why this movie didn't feel like a full plate to me.
Yeah, tell me about that. I want to hear about that.
I think it has to do with what I wish they tapped into a little bit more, which from what I'm hearing from you kind of sounds like you didn't necessarily need it. The eerie and the fact that these are vampires that they're dealing with. And so that scene was a representation of, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm on the very edge, ready to just jump off and leap into the love of this. they're dancing in the background. Even the poster of the movie has it, but they're dancing in the background. Their eyes are lighting up and they look scary. And you have this pit in your stomach where you're like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm also kind of freaked out a little bit. The posters of the movie have all the shadows in the background that you can't really tell what they are. The start of the movie, when Sammy walks in the church and you get the jump scare that's really quick of Remick going, Sammy! And then it shows all that. I liked those moments, but it never felt like it fully jumped into it, like you said. And I feel like that jumping into it is where I would have gotten that last bit of corn on the side or that, last bit of juice. I wanted that extra step, but it never felt like it got there. And so Rocky Road to Dublin is where I felt it fully. I'm like, they're scary. They're hive-minded, dancing in a circle, I don't want to say abnormal movements, but like watching them all, you just kind of feel...
It's unnatural. It feels unnatural.
It's unnatural, and I like that feeling.
Yeah.
So that's where my bit of corn comes in, as well as a different problem that I'll bring up, because I feel like I've done a lot of thinking about Ryan Coogler in general, and this movie has solidified something about him for me that I feel. But music, Sammy and Remick, their battle with their souls and how that all comes to a conclusion, I just loved. I think, again, that soundtrack has been bumping, bro. Music is so important to us as humans. It's how we tell stories. It's how we pass history down. And I think that's beautiful. The fact that our history can change, but the roots are still there. At the end, when Stat comes in, he's like, I hate all that electric shit. Play me a little bit of that old school. And it's like, all right, bro, your roots are still there. Your history may change and evolve and develop, but the souls is still there. There's a reason why some of those popular rap songs now are sampling old tracks. Kanye West, I know he's in a bit of a kind of insane period of life right now, but when you listen to some of his older music, you hear the samples of what have come before, and that's why music to me is so special, because that can transcend lifetimes.
I agree.
Annie is dead ass when she says that. Yeah. And I think it's beautiful. I agree. W music, bro.
W music. They played into that super beautifully. I think I can understand that, especially because you're a lover of horror, bro. Like, you love horror. I don't love horror. So for me, it's like, I don't have a tiny bit of jump scares in the beginning is enough for me to, it was, I was kidding. I just think that, like, if you look at what horror is, one thing about horror that we've talked about here is that there are like psychological ideas that I think he navigates those waters, to bring it to your world that you like. He navigates those waters, instead of the visceral horror. I think the blood, some people might find that pretty, like, the body, like some people don't like the blood.
I didn't care much about that. I think it's atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you'll understand this more than possibly anybody that listens to this. Infamous has a non-canon game dealing with vampires, narrated, and the visuals all add to that eeriness. Yeah. That as a child, I was scared a little bit. And I just want a little bit of that eerie, a little bit more. I'm talking like, you take the straw right here and you drip the whatever water's left in this, boom. Yeah. That was so atmospheric wise, it felt like I was always on the cusp of what I would call greatness, and it just never hit that, I'm fully there. I'm fully.
Sure. As a horror lover, you felt blue balled. I understand that. That's fair. I feel like, again, like, one of the scariest scenes, like, there's two scenes that when I think about horror in the movie and the theme of the horror, like, I also think like the scene with cornbread is one of the scariest scenes in the movie, but like people wouldn't think that, and I think it's kind of scary by like Jordan Peele's rules, like from like, Nope. And like,
are you talking like where he's in front talking about, we all got to be kind to one another. Okay.
And then
I wasn't sure if it was.
And then it ends with him trying to bite him, like it's a build up scene, it's a scene, another long crawling shot when you're in, Joan and her husband's, house after Remick was already let in. And it's this long shot. Like, you don't know what's going to happen next. Like those are eerie moments, I just feel like it was able to kind of like suit itself up. Like John Bellion often says that he presents himself like a sheep in wolf's clothing by making music that's secularized, but he has ideas of faith that he slithers into all of his songs. But you would never really know that unless you dig deep enough to find out what's under you know, and people love it for the wolf skin of it, the beautiful sound, the secular pop, the cool songwriting. But there's so much more underneath everything he creates. And I think in this movie, that's exactly what I said earlier. That's exactly what Coogler tried to do. He used the mechanism of horror, the vehicle of horror, to convey a lot of different characters of theme and concept. And I think, like, could it have been through and through fully horror? Yes. But would that have been at the cost of some of these other things? I don't know. Maybe he felt like it would have been. I don't know. I just know that he got it off, and he got the money for a horror film from Warner Brothers, and then is getting it back 25 years later. And everybody thought it was going to sleep, and the John lost less than 10% of its viewership over a week later. Like, this is a moment in cinematic history.
They even announced today that they will be doing more IMAX showings in 2 weeks.
That's right.
Due to popular demand in certain cities.
One of my city. I'm in that city. I'm in one of those cities.
I'm also in that city.
Yeah. So I just think at the end of the day, bro, when it comes to the music, yes, you know, blues was something that's seen with Delta Slim telling the story about playing blues for the white people, and then the guy taking the money, and then they making up a story about he had robbed a white man. And that concept is just, and the fact that it was improv, the fact that he ends that scene by singing instead of crying. I think, like, that idea of music being a thing that not only commemorates and memorializes story, but it also is a grieving. There's a grieving that happens through music. The I Lied to You is him grieving the tension of his dad not accepting him in the thing that he loves. I'm sorry, Dad. I love the blues. And that's something that grieves me that you can't accept about me. Music is the way to get that out. Remick expressing his grief about not being with his people actually creates a dynamic where, like, what he wants from Sammy is something any of us would want. If it didn't have any idea of vampirism, then it would have been like this idea of, like, man, I wish I had something that connected me to my people as well, but I just don't have that. Let me do what I need to do that. What's any different from a character that is poor being around rich people and wanting to pull a heist off so he can steal all their money and feel rich? Like, it's not any different. It creates this thing that's human. Everything in this movie is just so beautiful, bro. I could thematically go after anything. The fact that Smoke can't roll his own cigarettes, like, that concept is insane. My favorite scene in this whole movie, before we move off themes and get to actors and really wrap this thing up, because this is one of them ones I'm gonna look back at. One of the episodes I'll look back at when I'm 30 years old, 30 years old,
and be like, damn, I want to talk about it more.
Yes, is this scene. My favorite scene in the movie. I think this is the best scene in the whole film. Long shot. They just got the chest out the truck. Smoke's about to shoot the clam. He's telling Sammy to go home. He tells him, bury that guitar. Spins back on a previous conversation when they was up on top of the juke joint. He tells him, nah, man, I can't. This is so-and-so's guitar, some famous player. I can't remember the name right now. And in that moment, when Smoke goes, this nigga lied to you, I thought that scene was hilarious. Want to know why? Because all of Stack's memory exists in that one moment. Like, this guy was always with the sky above his head telling stories that weren't real. Always in a place that's not real. So you grieve his lack of presence via his line. But then he says, that was our dad's guitar. And that is the linchpin thematic moment. I think that is a full press moment in the whole film. This is like, if I could go speak to Coogler and sing praises and ask him how the heck he thought of this, I would ask him how he thought of this, because I think that this was the point, that the fact that the thing that Sammy grew his ability out of was so tightly tied to the trauma that created these two characters. The fact that these two characters, Stack and Smoke, are the perceived devil that would follow him home, that his dad talks about. And them being the very thing that introduced to him the thing he loves and he finds freedom through, is the ultimate concept when it comes to music and when it comes to the idea of, like, being a sinner or being a human. And it goes back to my boy's question about the whole, like, is he choosing music over God? Why can't he choose both? Everybody's like, the devil's in the music. Well, the devil gave him music. Your perceived devil. The devil is music, but that music gave him freedom. Your perceived devil. Like, this idea, it goes back and forth. This one scene, it just wraps it all up. And I just loved that scene so freaking much, bro. I was like, that was the moment when I started tearing up. I'm be honest with you. Everything else was mad cool, beautiful scenes. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, that scene in the car was beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, Delta Slim, you doing your thing. But when that scene came up, I said, yeah, this is one of the ones. This is instantaneously in my top 10. This is easily the best thing that Coogler has ever made. Easy. Easy. No questions. And it is definitely the best movie of the year. Easy. So that's how I feel. We talked about a lot of themes. And yeah.
Can I bring up my Coogler problem?
Yeah. Talk about that before we jump into the actors.
I think I realized when it comes to Mr. Coogler outside of Fruitvale Station, his directorial debut, I have found that a lot of my problems with his movies always become apparent in Act 3. I think in every Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Sinners, and even maybe Creed to a certain extent, Act 3 is the act where I'm like, that's my least favorite part. Sinners, the moment, come on in, you motherfuckers. Everything after that, drop the movie from my original score a little lower.
Wow, that's craziness.
Black Panther 1 and Wakanda Forever, that same thing. I love the build up, and then when it's all coming to an end, I'm like, I don't know. And maybe if I looked at other directors, obviously how you end a project is going to set the tone for the entire thing. But he's batting for his highs, 3 for 3 in my eyes of, I love the journey there more than coming to a close.
I mean, listen, man, I think everybody to each his own. If that's your opinion, that's fine. I feel like the third act. Okay, the one weakest point of the whole entire movie for me was that moment where she says, "Come on in." You know, that the conflict, the clash, the extra body that Remick jumps after that didn't exist in the barn. 2 or 3,
there was
right?
3.
Yeah,
they're on the sides. You reckon you see it, but it's like you could have done a little bit more to showcase that they were there, because now it just kind of feels like food for food. Like they're there quite literally to be eaten.
Yeah, they weren't there. They didn't have to eat any of the garlic in the circle when they're trying to figure out who's there. Like there's a little bit of a lack of continuity in that, and I think that's why I don't give it a perfect 10 out of 10. It's actually that one point. That is the one point for me.
Let me also, the characters that I've been viewing as smart this entire film lose some of those characteristics in those moments.
Yeah, sure.
Like Smoke, maybe he's just putting up a front. He hit Sammy in the face with his gun. He said he was going to shoot, I think her name was Pearl or Pearline. But Shorty's about to let them in, and you telling me you're not going to put a bullet in her brain, bro? Like you threatened to do with every other person in this movie so far?
Yeah.
That to me, Annie, the smartest character in this entire movie, who took charge this entire movie, stops in the middle of a floor room of a bunch of vampires to look to the side and tell Smoke that she just found a weakness. They were moving like a well-oiled machine 2 minutes ago. He lifted a vampire up. She was there to turn around and stab him. But you're going to stop in the middle of the room to Smoke. They all feel his pain. What are we doing right now?
Facts.
You're dumbing down characters that should have been held with a little bit more respect, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the weakest point of the film is the exact point of conflict when the vampires get in. I think that it is the weakest point. And because of that weak point, I can't give it a perfect score. But I'm one of those people who I think everything beyond that point, from Smoke letting Stack live, the circle back around to the Mojo pack that helped him not get bit.
I like the Mojo pack.
The scene I just told you about with when they take the chest out, the KKK killing scene.
Sure.
The the mid-credit scene, I think all the water, the baptismal water, the Lord's Prayer recited by the vampires. Like that was one scene, like smoke's popping up out of nowhere when there's an army of vampires that could have killed him. Like that kind of concept was a little wonky.
That was another point where I was like, why? And
but I think thematically he sticks the landing, but when it comes to the actual practicality of the vampire clash, yes, I agree. It was like he almost like wrote himself into a space he didn't know how to get out of. And if we were to think we've done this before on an episode, like what will we do differently to make that happen? I'd have a hard time figuring out what to do though, to be honest. Like, how would you get that off? Like, how would you save Sammy outside of Smoke, sneaking past the crowd of vampires?
It's difficult, right? And it's also like, all the vampires dying because he's dying, or because the sun's out, but then Mary and Stack are still alive. So I guess it's just because they were all outside when the sun was out. I don't know. There's like at the end, it's all the shiftiness. It's like, oh,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Even my boy Delta Slim, the way he goes out, it's like, that kind of just felt, Pearline just got clipped like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't show Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan had that talk, so they're going to bring it around later. Stacks alive. I'm not surprised because, it just felt like because of how high the rest of the movie is, when I use the word dumbed down, I don't mean like, you're writing at a level on the floor. No, we're talking about what I was literally going to give a 10 out of 10 up until this point. Got knocked down to an 8 or 9 because it just felt like, you just lost so much because you just had to tie it up, frankly.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, like, when it comes to like being objective over the movie, that knocks it down to a 9 out of 10 for me, 9.5 even out of 10, because the other thing is like the themes aren't threatened by those concepts. Same thing you said earlier, like the story's not threatened by those points, in my opinion. Even the characterization of the journey is like not necessarily threatened per se. I just think that it's kind of like there are chinks in the armor for sure, but the armor's still intact, low key. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like that last scene, the mid-credit scene, that unfortunately there were people who got up out of my theater and walked out before that came on like idiots.
That's
just
crazy to me because in my theater, people did that joint too, bro. And the dude scanning the tickets verbally said to every person after scanning their ticket, stay for the credits. I got a poster too. My theater was giving me posters.
Me
but
too, yeah.
I'm just like, yo, how are you getting up right now when he told you to stay?
People are idiots. They don't have cinematography. I mean, cinephile etiquette. I just think at the end of the day, like this movie is timeless, and I think that lack of pacing that could have been better in the third act proves Coogler's youth. But what makes me excited is that like if he's learning from a Nolan who doesn't really have moments that happen like that, there's an even balance from the beginning of the film to the end. In fact, some people would say that the people like him, Scorsese, even Denis, these greats, PTA, like these guys make longer films that feel longer in pace and feel like they're not rushed, but almost too slow sometimes. And I think that like in the desire to cater to the commercialization of the film, I think that, he had to figure that out and it put him in a tough spot. But I don't knock him for it. I felt like the film is just astonishing, man. I think this is like one of those movies that, let's talk about the actors because we about to wrap up. Like, let's talk about MBJ, bro. Like, let's just go into MBJ. For me, bro, I'm gonna go first. I think this is his best performance ever. And I'm not even a big MBJ fan, me personally. I think I love him in Creed. I love him as Adonis. I did not like him as Killmonger. I'm one of those guys who just wasn't like, I didn't think as an antagonist, he did very well, in my opinion. Obviously, Fruitvale's iconic. Like, I can never knock him for that. But this movie, I don't want to hear any talk about, I told you this, I don't want to hear any talk about Batman.
Pattinson.
I don't want to hear nothing about Robert Pattinson over there with Mickey 17.
But why you got to bring that up, bro?
The reason why
I honestly feel like they're both fantastic for their own reasons.
I think if there was an Olympics on who can play twins or clones better, or who played it better this year, I think MBJ played it better this year in regards to the differentiation in the personalities of these people. Now, I'll give Pattinson the buffer, the handicap of he played like 3 or 4. I'll give him that. But at the end of the day, like what MBJ did here that was so astonishing to me is that, yo, bro, they really are 2 different characters for real. Like, It's like you feel the difference between these 2 characters, bro. But at the same time, he plays into it being him on both characters to make them feel synonymous and yin and yangy. And I think that like takes balance and it takes harmony in yourself as an actor. It shows years. This is a movie star we're talking about, bro. He's a real movie star and he put it on display. I think when he gets older, he'll look back and he'll be like, man, this was when I cracked the Richter scale and became something way different. You know, I think I'm excited for him for what's to come.
Right. I think writing plays a role in it as well. Where Pattinson's writing kind of didn't lend itself the way that it did here. Because I am on record, I think on that generation of actors, Pattinson is 10 out of 10. Like he's top tier. I agree. He's going stupid.
Oh no, I'm not saying that Pattinson's not a better actor.
No.
I'm just,
I get what you're saying.
No.
And it's tough to nail this, right? Because like Lindsay Lohan did it. Pattinson did it. You know, Michael B did it. You sure Jace isn't your favorite role though, bro?
I love Jace. Shout out to Jace, man. We need some Jace back in
it's
our
crazy,
lives.
bro. Michael B. Jordan was in Gears, bro. We
was.
we could claim that as fans of the franchise.
Oh, and I loved him in Chronicle too. I thought he was great in Chronicle.
Michael B. Jordan, this was my favorite performance from him, absolutely, because of the way he played these two characters. He feels matured as an actor. He feels like he's comfortable. He gets it. And I like his interview. I think him stepping into the director's chair for Creed 3 did lend itself to being the star of this movie. And he said
that's a good point.
It put him in the eyes of Coogler, and he understood where Coogler was coming from, and he knew what he needed to do. Yeah. So I think Michael B. Jordan directing Creed 3 allowed him to be where he is in this movie. And without that, I don't know.
I mean, he's literally the reason why the movie comes together. He's the glue. He's the glue of the film. And not that separate pieces, it wouldn't have been great. I mean, there's more actors to talk about. Let's talk about Haley. Let's talk about Haley Steinfeld. Let's talk about Mary, right? Like,
can I go?
Go ahead.
I was speaking about it with a few other people, and somebody said, this is the first, and I agree, because I think this is the best I've ever seen her be, and this is the first time, her first adult role.
I'm weak.
Her first, I'm not the energetic teenager. I'm not the flowery, lovely, No, I'm an adult. I'm a grown-ass woman giving you a grown-ass performance. Now, yeah, what she's saying, the words coming out of her mouth also play a role in that. Talking about, stuck your tongue up in my coos and shit.
You can't steal this pussy?
You can't steal this pussy for a night? Okay, but this is the first time, even outside of that, in the moments where she's just straight up, you better get the fuck up out of my face. Like, she's playing an adult grown-ass woman because that is what she is. And it's about time that she starts getting roles that showcase that versus the Kate Bishop's, Gwen Stacy's, Transformers that she's been doing since she started, right?
Yes.
This is the first, and she left quite an impression.
She did.
And she can do this, so let's trust her to do it more.
We got a running joke with the homies because ever since like Bumblebee, I've said like, yo, Haley Steinfeld is beautiful. I crush on her OD. I think she's gorgeous, And Steve, my boy Steve, shout out to Locke, he used to be like, you be like, yo, she look like a little girl. You tweaking. What's funny is exactly that. It perpetuates this kind of like typecast over like, she's a little girl. She's young. In Bumblebee, she was like mid-20s. Like, y'all are tweaking. Like, she was like early to mid-20s. Like, it wasn't that long ago. like she's a grown woman, but she's been a woman for a minute now. She's freaking beautiful. She's a great actress. And I think at the end of the day, like, I'm glad that she could stick her difference to break out of that typecast on a movie like this, because she owned it. She very much owned it. And I feel like the character of Mary needed somebody who needed to own something in order for it to stick. So that's just great casting. Shout out to casting director. Just great moves. I think Haley did great. She was astonishing. And she's bad.
Great.
And she bad. That train scene when she come out, she bad. He was like,
she a year younger than you, bro. So
she bad. I know. But the homies was talking all this nonsense. Now Steve's talking about, I'm sorry, bro. I'm like, yeah, nah. I'm not even gonna hit you with the I told you so. We just gonna let her speak. And then she started speaking. I said, hey, what's up with it, bro? What's up? What are we talking about right now, bro?
I think I have my own person, the actress that qualifies for.
I'm sure.
Miles.
I
want to talk about Miles, bro. This is his first thing ever. He did crazy.
Amazing.
Craziness. He want to play Miles Morales in Marvel Universe, and I think that's terrible. I think that's a bad idea.
Let's not
do that.
Please,
but enjoy what you're doing here, because this was fantastic.
Yeah, let's just find a Hispanic black man to do that, okay? Let's try to keep it.
But this dude has a nice future ahead.
He does, man. I'm excited for his whole future. He's got a beautiful voice. The singing, the dedication. They said he had to learn how to play that on the guitar, learn how to play the guitar within the span of like a 5-6 month period for this movie. And he got it off. It's not an easy thing to play that I Lied to You, yet that scene is astonishing because of the way he carries it. He has gravitas, his weight in his voice, even scenes like, him talking to his dad, like a man, or, talking to Shorty about like, I just want to taste of you. Like, he got like this swagger to him that it doesn't feel fake. It feels like he's just being himself. So when I heard this was his first time, I was like, dog, he snapped on this.
He went crazy.
Shout out to let's go to Jack. Go to Jack O'Connell.
My favorite part of the movie, that might be crazy to say.
Nah, I don't hate that. He was great.
as a antagonist,
I've been clean.
I enjoyed him so much. He was funny, scary. He was aura farming. He was just dead serious when he needed everything you needed him to be. That scene where he's like, "Oh, this is because we're okay. How's she getting in?" Like, I was like, when they first show him as a vampire, oh, don't worry, he's just resting. I'm like, yo, he's so good, bro. And then obviously the rocky road to Dublin and he learning tap dancing and how to do the Irish jig and all that. He went crazy. And then you listen to him behind the scenes and you hear the sophisticatedness of him talking about accepting a role like this, and the contacts hurt his eyes, but he did it because he saw that he took this role serious. Yeah. And he made the antagonist someone that you would enjoy watching. Yeah. And that's difficult. It reminded me of characters like Handsome Jack at times, where it's like, I like seeing you on my screen, even though you're about to do devious things to these people that I'm rooting for. Yeah. I like you because you're all of the things and more, you know. Yes. You're not just a bad guy for bad guy's sakes and doing all the bad guy, you know.
You're believable. You know. I could be you. And the reality is, like, that relatable nature in which he conveys that. My favorite scene from him in the whole entire movie is when Mary comes up to him and he tells her about how he wishes he could have saved her mom. Like, I thought that scene was really, really spooky, because it's like, he's saying all the things that I want to hear. I would want to hear if I'm her. You know, you're trying to meet me in my pain. Compelling. Everybody else's conversations about her mom has kind of been like, we don't give a shit that your mom's dead. And then in this moment, he conveys something so heartfelt. And that is what he does with his eeriness. It's super heartfelt. So great job, Jack. You killed this whole flick, bro. You ate this up. This movie wouldn't be great without you, to be honest. You held just as much of a weight. You're the antagonist for real. What about Wumi?
Ooh. She was phenomenal. What was Loki doing? Loki low-key wasted her, bro.
I hate that they did that to her. That was almost like fridging a woman, but without like the fridge.
But, you know, maybe she, you know, I don't know her history in the field of acting, you know, but if this is the movie that's gonna put her on the map, bro, I see it, because she really she cooked. From the first time she was on screen to go toe to toe with MBJ and like all high key go higher than him. Yeah, she was awesome, bro. She was great. I have zero complaints about her. The writing around her character I got to complain about, but her as a performance,
I loved her, and I love that. I just love the way that she carried her character. She carried a reverence in her character, which I think is like very hard to do. You know, like, you want to respect her, like, because you could tell Smoke respects her, and like, that's MBJ doing his thing. But it's also like, again, the gravitas, the weightiness she carries. There's an authority that, again, like you said, because she was just made into a goon or a crony almost in the TVA, you don't get to see that part of her in that character. So I love that we got to see that in this film. She did a great job. What about Jamie, Perline?
She was cool. I don't really have much to say about her.
Yeah, I thought she was good. I mean, she's one of the characters, right? She's one of the players. If this was a video game, you could select her and you can try to fight vampires.
So she'd be the character I probably use the least.
Exactly. Like, I agree, but at the same time, the vibe between her and Sammy's character, or Sammy's actor, I liked the way that they carried that. You know, this young man and this woman, you might bite off more than you can chew. Like, she carried that with authenticity. What I think is, again, like, there's a lot of totem points where, like, there's a Mary and then there's an Annie, but there's also a Perline for Sammy against an Annie. And there's like and she carries that and holds her weight well, in my opinion. Omar, let's talk Omar. Cornbread, baby. Cornbread.
He was funny. He was cool. I enjoyed him. That's the second least used character.
I feel like
that's because all the other ones are so great. I don't have zero problems with performances in this film. Everybody was on their A game for this one, and he was 3-dimensional. You know, he's somebody I'd want to be friends with, you know. Fact. Maybe not the most reliable friend, but a good time.
Yeah, Omar, that's his vibe. Omar always plays a character that's like that. You know, that's kind of his typecast. So Loki wouldn't be surprised to hear if maybe this role was written for him. And like if Coogler thought about him and having him be casted for this, because he plays a similar type of role in There's a TV show called Ballers from HBO with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He plays a role that's kind of like that. He's also the guy from what's it called? 8 Mile. He's the one that's like their friend. Him and Cheddar Bob's friend, Eminem's friend. So I like that he plays that like that comedic relief, and then they elevated him with some horror in this. He did that well. Let's talk about the Lee Jun Lee, Grace, and let's talk about the guy who played Bo. What about those two?
They were cool. I liked how they represented the race and era that would have existed in Mississippi at this time. That's about it.
Yeah, I thought that they were. I thought that Bo was cool. Like he had Han Solo vibes, and I like that. You know, I like that vibe. And then I like Grace's steadiness. She gives a steady strength to the Chinese woman, which is again, like I feel like that's important for it to be portrayed well, and she did that very well.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to talk about Delroy. Let's talk about Delroy, Delta Slim, baby.
I mean, he was absolutely fantastic.
Astonishing.
I loved him. He was one of my favorite parts of the movie. He also had those layers to him that, you know, he was clearly drunk. And then when things start getting serious and someone's like, you old drunk, he's like, I ain't drunk. You better watch your mouth before I pop you. Like he locked in.
I'm not drunk no more, Grace.
He popped in. I liked him. People are like, oh, where have I seen him before? Where about he's the dude in the clip where the news anchor is talking about saying the N-word. He's like, so say it. I'll say it with you. Like that's what's going on there, bro. You've seen him before and he's so hilarious. Funny. He was hilarious.
Facts, man. I mean, the big thing about Delroy is that Delroy's a legend. Like he's a legend. So Coogler wrote this knowing he wanted him to play this role. And the reality is, like, damn straight, I can understand exactly why he wanted him to play this role. He just embodied the representation of blues culture. I feel like Coogler said that he wrote this movie because it reminded him of his uncle. And I'm sure he shared that same story with Delroy, and Delroy carried that weight on his shoulders when he made his character and he filled out these shoes. And I think that the embodiment of something that means so much to Black people and music culture and Black music, like I think that like he snapped, but it didn't feel like he snapped. And then it was like, it took a lot of work for him. It felt like it was just effortless to him because this is just his legacy as an actor. That's what it felt like. And so to be somebody astonishing like that, you're dedicated, bro. And we felt that. So shout outs to Delroy, Delta Slim, baby. I think this whole film, bro, is, I give it a 9 to 9.5 out of 10 for me. Even with the choppy third act, the pacing on this film, I thought outside of that third act, those bumps up until that point is damn near some of the most perfect pacing I've ever seen. I didn't even realize that we hadn't seen a vampire till like almost the halfway point.
It was about 44 minutes in.
That first scene when he jumps in with the and he walks up to the house doesn't happen for a good 45 minutes. Like, but you're so in it, and it's just so, the music moves you, the feelings move you, the characters move you. The movie is astonishing. It talks about complex concepts. It is a classic. And in 25 years, all of it will belong to Ryan Coogler. And that is an important conversation because we've been talking about a renaissance. We've been talking about studios and the strike and actors and directors and productions. And this is another piece of that concept and progression of the media that we love to cover here at CUZZO-OP. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that there is shift and change and transition that's coming. And if it's coming to redeem where it is that Black creativity has been taken and basically snatched and white gloved, it's important. It's important that this is an important film. I'm so glad I got to see this. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So glad.
People want prequels and sequels and all of these other things. God, I'll tell you what I want. Because I do want more.
I don't want anything.
I want a book. I want a book covering whatever you want. Cover how Smoke and Stack worked both for the Irish mob and the Italian mob, and that's how they ripped them off. Or I know on Spotify, they have different pieces of artwork that if you clip and screenshot and read, newspaper clippings of when Remick came to America for the first time and how a boat was found with nothing but ash and blood on it with only one man getting away. Like, these pieces of hints and lore are out there outside of the movie for us to find.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really cool to get like a book, a novel to explore it all. Maybe Coogler could work with somebody like that, but I don't want another piece of visual media.
No.
I think a book, maybe anthology like the Smoke and Stack twins, chapter, next the Remick chapter, even the natives that were hunting, why were they hunting him, or who else did they get? I think that would be cool to explore maybe in years' time when Coogler's ready and all that. But
I agree, man. And I think him getting it back in 25 years is also another aspect of, we've seen a great many IPs and creative ideas be hoed and ripped up and prostituted around for all of its parts and pieces by studios trying to make as much money as it possibly can. You know, at the end of the day, Coogler is going to be able to say the buck stops here if he wants to, and when that time comes. So we'll see what happens. Astonishing movie, bro. I know you kind of went whoa, but like, yeah, man, like I have 2 horror movies that are in my top 10, and this is now one of them. And even though it's like a pseudo horror, you know, when I think of like what It chapter 1 and 2 did for me in terms of the depth of how much it was talking about through the vehicle of a horror film, this movie does that in its own way as well. And it's special. And I love that. Those are the types of horror movies I could say confidently I actually enjoy. Just being scared for scare's sake ain't my shit. But when it comes to you're trying to say something and you want to scare me about it, I'm down. I'm down to listen. So shout out to
this is your episode, bro. You got a question in the episode?
Yeah. So what theme did you feel like was, let's go deeper, right? I don't want to start at the shallow. Like, what theme captivated you? What was something about this movie that was a thought that you felt like you had to chew on or had to pull the string of when you walked out the theater? Maybe it's conversations that you didn't even know you were going to have until you started talking to other people about it or something. But like, tell me that. What's that itch you're trying to scratch as you listen to that soundtrack?
Yeah.
There's something there. So
yeah,
shout out.
I love that.
Again, shout outs to Ryan Coogler. Shout outs to Michael B. Jordan. Their partnership is timeless. We see this with Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio. We see this with other actors that combine their skills with directors that use the same people they can trust. That's the beautiful thing about collaboration, man. When everybody's bought in, you get something special like this. And that's what this was, bro. So yeah, great film. Great film.
I like freedom. I like that freedom. And so I'm glad you went that route.
Yeah. For sure, bro. Fire.
Yeah. For me, 8 or 9. Pray on me because I have to find my spot. But it's a high 8 or a 9, you know. I know you like your 8.5s and then 9.5s and all that.
Yeah, I give it a 9. If I had to do it, then I'd say a 9 because I wouldn't be able to give it a 10, but I'll give it a 9. It felt like a 10. It felt like a 10 though. It felt like a 10.
For me, it did up to a certain point, as I said.
It felt like a 10 for sure. But thank you for joining us for another episode here at CUZZO-OP. This is what we do. We break it down. We talk about it. We tell you what we feel about these films. We try to commemorate and memorialize these movies so that we can look back and say, hey, man, we were there when it happened and we had thoughts about it. We hope that you found some thoughts, maybe some language to speak to what was special about this film for you as well. If you didn't like the film, we want to hear your comments and why you thought that it was whack too. If you're a Christian and you felt like this movie was something that was anti-Christian, I think you're an idiot, respectfully. And I really ask you to dig a little bit deeper and ask some more questions about what's going on here, because I think there's important dialogue that can deepen your ability to relate as a human to the people left and right of you. And anything that does that is God glorifying, in my opinion. But that's just my thoughts. Anyways, every time you tap in with us here at CUZZO-OP, we hope that you know that you will find 3 things. And that's 2 cousins, 1 podcast, and endless entertainment. See you.